Hey everybody, this is Giancarlo Alino reporting for Sportskeeda MMA, and I'm happy to be joined by my guest today, who's returning here to give us the updates on the exciting stuff going on in the PFL. He is a PFL CEO. He's Peter Murray. How you doing, Peter?
All right, how are you? Great to see you again.
I'm doing great, and Peter, we're just about a month removed from that exciting announcement, the Battle of the Giants there, Francis Ngannou's big return to MMA against Renan Ferreira. Can you just describe, I guess, to some fans, like how this came about for October, and was that always the plan all along?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's all playing out well. I mean, this is, the predator versus the problema. These are the two most devastating, hardest hitting fighters in MMA, coming together in Riyadh, October 19th, worldwide on the Zone here in the US, also on ESPN. It is the number one MMA fight of the year, and long time coming. To see Francis's return and Renan at 6'8". I mean, he is the Brazilian eighth wonder of the world. Our theme is braced for impact, and both these guys are going to deliver.
Yeah, you mentioned there like Renan Ferreira's stature. It's been a long time, probably if only if we've seen Francis Ngannou have to look up during a stare down. So, what was your reaction when you saw those two come together for the first time?
Exactly. Francis rarely looks up to anyone. I mean, he has many inspirational people in his life to look up to, but physically, he doesn't look up to many people. And so it just gave you a sense of how dangerous Renan is and can be. And I mean, listen, he knocked out Bellator champ Ryan Bader in 21 seconds. Renan's going to bring it. He's got something to prove. This is an important fight for Francis, his legacy, and continued journey as, one of the most prolific combat sports athletes of this generation. And he is absolutely the number one heavyweight MMA, champion in the world. And we're going to see what these two big guys are going to throw down October 19th.
That's right. You brought up there Ferreira's incredible win there against Ryan Bader. I think a lot of fans that maybe weren't too familiar with PFL saw that for the first time, and they see Bader just his resume in the sport, and we're taken aback by seeing that. For those fans that may be tuning in for the first time to the PFL product, though, what would you like? How would you describe Renan Ferreira to them, and what they can expect out of this fight?
This is Godzilla versus King Kong. These two guys are monsters, and all roads lead to Riyadh for this fight. Both dangerous fighters, heavyweights. Whoever lands for real first, that's what everybody's looking for. That's what they're trying to, get the edge on each other. But I think seeing the two of them size each other up, and the initial, that first round, the initial part of the fight is going to be interesting.
Definitely, I agree there. And there is some confusion, I guess, if you can clear this up. Renan Ferreira was the PFL heavyweight champion. He was a tournament winner. Francis Ngannou coming over from the UFC, making his debut. Is there going to be a championship up for grabs here, or is this just?
Oh yeah, this is a 5-round world title fight, new belt, super fights belt from the PFL. This is a belt that, will be on an ongoing basis, won and defended. And so we're excited to have that within our overall, platform as part of Super Fights.
That's great. So this super fight pay-per-view fights, as well like Cyborg and Pacheco, that'll be
for
two
a world title fights. Oh, two world title fights. And as it relates to Cris Cyborg versus Larissa Pacheco, I mean, Cyborg, one of the greatest women in the sport, an overall fighter, as a champion. She's earned championship belts, world title belts wherever she has fought. And obviously Bellator, UFC, Strike Force. She wants this belt. And Larissa Pacheco, she's a two-time PFL champion, also Brazilian, and she's looking to leave her mark, continue to make her mark on the sport. And, she's a champion in two different weight classes, 155 and 145. So this is a long anticipated fight as well. And we're so excited to see Cris enter the PFL cage on October 19th. And, we've been waiting a long time to see Cris compete, at a high level, versus a PFL two-time champ. So this is going to be another great moment.
And like this fight also being for that super fight championship, what happens to Cyborg's Bellator championship? Because there's also some contender bouts coming up there in the coming weeks. Like, will she be defending both, or will it be like merged into one?
Yeah, this is a new belt. Okay.
And just even also on the like Pacheco, you mentioned there what she's done in the sport, incredible run in the PFL. A lot of fans, though, they were talking about like when the PFL acquired Bellator, Cyborg versus Kayla Harrison was that fight everyone wanted to see. And do you think it kind of made some overlook Pacheco's greatness and accomplishments in the past couple of years?
Yeah, well, hey, listen, she's a lethal fighter. Larissa Pacheco's the only fighter that, defeated Kayla Harrison. So I think that says something. And she's earned this fight against Cris Cyborg, that's for sure.
And also looking forward to that. Two exciting bouts here, but also on the card, got AJ McKee taking on Hughes. Those are two great lightweights in under the PFL banner there. What can fans expect from this one?
I mean, AJ, one of the best in the weight class in the world. He's obviously a former Bellator featherweight champion. He's currently on a 4-fight win streak. And he continues to get better. He really likes the limelight. We like that. So he'll be in Riyadh with us October 19th and on the pay-per-view portion of the card. And, Paul Hughes, he's also on a win streak, a 6-fight win streak, something to prove. And he really is, a star in the making. And he's got a huge fan base, obviously, in Europe and as an Irish kid, and it's going to be a real fight.
I just love this card. As it's progressing nicely.
And more to come. We're going to drop something big next week.
Looking forward to that.
So we'll be pulsing out how we're fleshing out, the October 19th card. It's a must-watch, on DAZN around the world, ESPN here in the U.S. As well. So, we're super pumped.
I want to ask you about another name here because you were in the Paris card for Bellator. Fans got to see Cedric Doumbe put on a masterclass performance. After the fight, Anthony Showtime Pettis comes in, and he said he wanted to fight him in Paris. Is that still in the works there? Showtime versus Cedric Doumbe?
Yeah, listen, Cedric Doumbe's got a lot of options. When he returns, we haven't announced his next fight yet, and we're excited about that. So, more to come on those details. And, I can understand why Pettis wants to crack, at Doumbe. But there's a number of fights that we're in the process of lining up, for Cedric. And, there's one in particular that'll happen in early part of 2025, which I think it'll be a national holiday in France. So, more to come on those details.
That's great. And fans also got to see Jake Paul involved for the stare down between Francis and Ferreira. Just curious, what are your thoughts on him fighting Mike Tyson in November on Netflix?
Big fight, big moment. And, Jake, as a young, powerful athlete, he absolutely has the capabilities and the desire. But Mike's a scary man, and he's still very, very fast and skilled. So, I'm going to be tuning in like everybody else, watching that fight and seeing what goes down. But it's a massive event, and we're excited for both of the fighters, both Jake and Mike.
And also, like Jake Paul, is it still like where you have planned for 2025 to be his PFL debut?
Yeah, we're lining it up. Obviously Jake is finishing up, boxing this year with this massive fight against Mike Tyson. And then a lot of planning's going into Jake Paul's debut in 2025. And we'll be sharing those details, after Jake gets in the ring with Mike Tyson and we lay out our schedule for super fights next year.
And from your standpoint, like in the management, is it difficult to like find the right opponent for him because he does have a big following, but you also don't want to like discourage him a bit by putting him against somebody that's like too ahead in terms of experience? Like, does it make it difficult on your end to book a fight for him?
Plenty of options. So and Jake is committed to fighting a very, very credible, well-rounded MMA fighter. And not easy to do, not easy to cross over from, boxing into MMA. The crossover from MMA or other disciplines into boxing is a lot easier.
And we've seen that too with the women's boxers. Last time you joined us here, you talked about Claressa Shields, Savannah Marshall. They had a little bit of a face-off. Is there more coming on those two of when we can possibly see that fight take place?
Yeah, we're really impressed with Claressa and her, continued commitment. I mean, as an elite level champion boxer, and once again, how she's taking on MMA, and we'd like to see that fight happen. And it's not in the cards this year. We'll see about next year.
Forward to that, and just want to transition a bit because like PFL events, PFL versus Bellator. Is this going to be something that we see again this coming February, or is it maybe later in the year?
Yeah, I mean, listen, look. With the acquisition of Bellator, the PFL's roster is really second to none, and those Bellator fighters definitely up-leveled the overall competition and the excitement in the fights in our global season. We just wrapped up the playoffs this past month, and you saw the level of fights, level of competition. It was definitely, way next level. And, next year we look forward to continuing, challenging, our fighter, our overall roster, including those Bellator fighters, to mix it up, not only in the global season, but within other events, and more to come on those details.
And it's also great too that fans got to see like Saudi Arabia put on the event as well, like just the grand like just everything about like boxing, they saw it, but in terms of MMA, that was a first one, and it was with the PFL versus Bellator event. What has it been, I guess, from your end, this partnership and relationship with Saudi Arabia, and how, I guess, Riyadh has become what Las Vegas is to so many fans?
Yeah, I mean, listen, KSA, the Kingdom, Riyadh is become the fight capital of the world. And, attracting, the biggest of the biggest and the best in combat sports, in boxing, and now across MMA. It was a proud moment for the PFL to stage the very first, professional major MMA event in all of Saudi Arabia in its history. It came off without a hitch. It was an incredible event. PFL champs versus Bellator champs, an annual mega event. It just showed the appetite, our partners in KSA have for developing future champions and staging world-class events in KSA. And the PFL is a part of that. We're part of the overall mission to, create a world-class ecosystem of MMA. So we're really excited what's happening both in boxing as well as MMA with our partners in Saudi.
It's exciting to see as fans as well. And I'll be remiss if I don't ask you this. As a biased Canadian, are we going to see PFL or Bellator come to Canada within the next year?
Yeah, I'm not sure if that, there's a number of markets outside the U.S. in North America, including Canada, including Mexico, that are in the mix. What I can tell you, I'm really excited about our overall international expansion, including, we have PFL Europe up and running in its second season. And speaking of Saudi and the Middle East, we have PFL MENA in its first inaugural season, two events. And, we have a great partner in NBC throughout the Middle East, our media partner, number one media network throughout the region. And, we're attracting, 2 million plus viewers throughout the region in just two events. We've The team has, developed stars. You have Al-Qahtani, a Saudi fighter, absolute star, as well as Haytan, who's his now fiance. And she was the first ever Saudi professional MMA fighter who we, signed and now developing. And it's an incredible thing to watch culturally. Men and women compete in KSA representing themselves. And we have now this power couple, and they're tough. They're tough. You just can't. It's hard to not fall in love with them and their individual stories and their overall now, collective story. So, but PFL MENA, we have our next event September 20th. So that'll be the fourth event the PFL staged in Saudi Arabia this year alone. And then we have, after October 19th, we have two more events. We haven't announced. Obviously the PFL MENA Championship will also be, in Saudi Arabia this year. So that's 6 events from a market last year that zero, and every year prior to it, PFL staging 6 events in KSA. And more to come in the future. So we're really excited about the market, not only Saudi Arabia, but much broader in the region. You'll see the PFL execute events in the Middle East, outside of Saudi Arabia, starting next year. And we'll be sharing, that news very shortly. And then PFL Africa, our third international league. It will launch in 2025. Francis, he'll step out of the cage and the ring, and he's at the helm as our chairman. We will launch PFL Africa in second quarter of 2025. And we're in discussions with governments and key stakeholders in sport of where our 4 events will be held in its inaugural season throughout the continent. So we'll be announcing those details, as well as the full fighter roster of PFL Africa in the coming months.
That's great. And just with all this continued growth, like I've heard you talk about a Champions League of MMA in the past, like in your mind, like when do you envision that to hopefully come to fruition?
It's already come to fruition. We have the global season, over a third of the fighters in our global season, and the roster, we have 40 plus countries represented on that roster. So the very best in MMA competing in, what we like to call the toughest test in MMA. The champions they got to fight 4 times, including that championship in 8 months. And based on the caliber of talent, it's not an easy task. And so to have the best of the best in the global season, and now have PFL Europe, PFL MENA, PFL Africa, and what will follow in the next, 2 years, we will have PFL Australia, and which will also sort of bring in New Zealand and the Pacific region. And then following that will be PFL LATAM and PFL Asia. We already have laid groundwork on that and putting those pieces together before we make our announcements, but that's all being implemented. So we're already, executing aspects of the Champions League of MMA, and what'll take place in the next 2 years is nothing short of transformational in the sport of MMA.
Yeah, that's exciting growth too. So, like, is this framework, like, are you a football or soccer fan? Because that's what it sounds like when all the big leagues come together and the champions take on each other. Is that like the blueprint?
Hey, the world's number one sport, soccer or football. Global football, and there's definitely some parallels here in this sport and what we're building. And what makes the PFL different is it's merit based. The best athletes from around the world, compete in a true sport format, competing individually in a regular season playoff and championship, earning their way to that postseason. Fans are assured to see the best fight against the best in the postseason, the championship, because they earned that right and they're on that journey. And so, each year we'll have regional champions ascend, to that global season. And we're creating opportunity and pathways for fighters that did not exist. And, we're playing our part to not only advance and grow the sport, but give fighters opportunities, because around the world, some of the amazing talent, hope is their strategy, because these many regional organizations are not well positioned, capitalized to give fighters consistent top competition on major media platforms and give them the ability to develop and become transparently champions. And that's what it's a system that we have created and now we're implementing.
That's great to see. Looking forward to that. And just a final question here before we wrap up. Get our listeners and viewers here at Sportskeeda MMA to get to know you a little bit better. You're somebody that's accomplished a lot in your career, both in the PFL now and even before the PFL. Just curious, if you were to see your younger self walk into the boardroom there at the PFL headquarters and ask for advice from the established Peter Murray, what advice would you give to your younger self?
All about, honestly, what it takes to succeed and win. And, it takes vision, it's, timing and a great team. And, we're as a challenger organization and a disruptor, we're tenacious. And so, any young person that comes, I'm really, it's an amazing a privilege to have such a great team at the PFL. Young professionals, leaders across different facets of sports, whether it be on the live production, creator side, marketing side, commercial side of the business, fighter operations. And, as we're building a powerhouse, in MMA, it's all made possible by, an incredible committed ownership group and investors, but a team that punches above their weight and who brings superpowers, and experience beyond just combat sports. A team that comes and brings passion and experience across broader sports, media, entertainment, and technology. And we apply that to the sport of MMA to, create the opportunity. And that opportunity is not only for us, it's for fighters, it's for fans, it's for our media partners. So it's it's a fun time to be in sports. It's a great time to be in MMA, as it's a growth sport. And we know what we're solving for.
It's great advice. Highly recommend that advice too. It was great. Thank you for sharing that. And Peter, I just want to thank you for sharing your time and coming on here at Sportskeeda MMA again to talk about the PFL and all the exciting stuff coming up there. And I wish you all the best.
I appreciate it. October 19th, Race for Impact. It's going to be fun. And we'll see you there.